What's going on YouTube? Trucking the life here one more time, guys. Guys and gals and girls and girls. Yeah. Anyway, owner-operators, been owner-operator guys taught me some things, and I think it'll teach you some things too. If you observe from learning from it. One thing it taught me how to like manage risk. Like if you take a risk on certain things, you gotta weigh the options. Okay, especially doing. In case you guys new to the channel, I do intermodal. Well, I do intermodal at the moment. I always say it fits my situation, so I'm doing it. But the moment it's not fitting my situation, I'm 86 in it. But anyway, as of right now, as a point of this video, I do intermodal. So as an owner operator, it's been times where I had to get a load. I did a video about a crazy yard, I almost flipped over in the yard. And you gotta sit there and calculate in your head. The person that dropped this off, or the spotter, or whoever dropped this off in that spot, they dropped it off in a crazy location. Now, if I go hook up to that trailer and I start going down that hill like I can talk about in that video, and I almost flipped over. If I flipped over with that box hooked up to me, I'm responsible for that. And also too, I'm responsible for my truck getting flipped over because of my box. So it teaches you how to like, okay, should I take that chance or should I not? Should I pull this load knowing that it's gonna tie up my truck for 2 days? The risk is I might not be able to make the money I wanna make because I'm tied up with this one load for so many days. But the profit is the load probably pays real good if it goes right. So you gotta think about all this as yourself as if you wanna take it. Now here's the difference. One difference between this managing risk as an owner operator and a company driver is a lot of the times the company driver don't have the option to take the load or not. Some companies allow it to kind of dispatch yourself a little bit, but for the most part, owner operators, they have the option to say, look, I don't want that trash. I'm not running that crap or whatever. And if I do run it, you gotta live with whatever comes with it. So you gotta learn how to manage your risk. Because if you don't, it could cost you a lot more money being tied up with this one load versus, you know, running some short hop somewhere else or doing something else that'll kind of give you more profit and save your time a lot more. And also too, managing risk is like with the truck situation. You gotta maintain your equipment. You gotta understand, like your truck, the more you drive your truck, the more you realize she ain't perfect. She's gonna have issues. And sometimes them issues arise at the wrong time. Especially when your money's looking crazy. And you know you gotta get out there and do some things, but your truck kinda got some things going on. That's a risk you gotta take. Sometimes you don't wanna take that risk, but you gotta weigh your mind, you gotta manage it. Is it worth me even attempting this? Or should I chill? Now I know somebody in the background talking about, in a perfect world, talking about, yeah, you know, you should know better than that because you know, if it ain't like this, then you shouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, I get all that. But in the real world, out here in the real environment with like stuff like that, you gotta make choices like that and you gotta be able to assess the risks. So anyway, I ain't gonna beat that dead horse too much, guys. One thing being an owner operator will teach you indirectly is how you work based off performance versus hourly. I know when I came from being a company driver, I was used to hourly pay. I don't think I ever had a company driver job where I was paid percentage about a load. I don't think I ever had. All my company driver jobs about an hour. So by me being a company driver to get paid hourly, I used to calculate how many hours I had to work to make so much money. I had to work this many hours by this pay per hour to give me this, minus the taxes and et cetera, right? But when you're an operator, it teaches you how to, every day, you might not work, because like I said, if the work ain't worth doing, you ain't finna work. Whereas you're a company driver, a lot of times you work your days, you work average days. You may have worked 5 days out the week, you may work 4 days out the week, you may work 3, but you working, you got like a kind of a schedule, kind of, sort of. Rather it's night, days, sometimes mixed up. You kind of got a routine. When you're an operator, you don't know if you're gonna work that day or not, because they give you some work that just don't make sense and ain't profitable. You ain't gonna do it. So you gotta make up your mind, okay, I can't work right now, so I have to do other things because this ain't worth me going out there. It teaches you how to work based off of performance. I have to do this work, move this load for this pay. I do X amount of loads for this pay, make X amount of dollars. I make my profit margins. So you have to make sure you running for a profit, and so It's gonna dictate the work you do. You ain't just grabbing the load, says, it's gonna take me 5 hours to do this. I should make this much per hour. And I get it, some owner operators do work, they do make hourly pay. I've seen that. But as a whole, from what I've seen, as a majority, from what I've seen, a lot of owner operators get paid by the mile, they get paid by percentage, but they get paid, there's so many ways to pay out his own operator. So you based off your performance. They give you so much work to do. Like with me, for example, I may get 4 or 5 loads because I'm local. Or I may get 2 loads because I'm local. So now, in order to get them 2 loads done, I have to make sure that I'm able to route myself right to get it done in a timely fashion, and also make sure that when I do that, it's not costing me more. It's not going to cost me more to do that than actually work. Is it worth me doing that? And that's based off my performance of doing that. Like, I have to plan that stuff out. I have to dispatch myself pretty much. And you got to make it make sense based off of movements. You're not getting paid just for being out there. Let's say, I'm gonna use an example. Let's say 2 loads pay $150 a piece, right? But they short hops. They may be live on loads or live loads. But them 2 loads that pay $150 a piece take you about an hour to do, then that's kind of good if you're able to get something behind that. Now, $300 a day is not worth being out there as an owner operator. I would say that you want at least profit. You want at least bring home at least $500 a day to the truck. Now I mean, like, to your pocket, not to the truck, to your pocket, if possible. Some people say they're doing $1,000 a day. I don't care. As long as you bring up your $500 minimum, $450 to $600 to bring home to your pocket after fuel and expenses per day, you can make okay living. They'll give you that number around $1,500, $2,500, whatever. We do averages, but if it ain't about that. So anyway, let's say you do that in like an hour. $300 for 1 hour. They got paid $300 an hour if you do it hourly, right? Well, if those same 2 loads for $150 took you 14 hours to do. $300 for 14 hours. So it's performance based, not hourly based. That's why I'm saying it makes more sense. But anyway, another thing an owner operator business will teach you indirectly, it teaches you budget and planning, because if you don't, let's say you have a real good month, let's say you make about $12,000 to $15,000 this month as owner operator, right? You have probably 2 or 3 of them months in a row. Subconsciously, we all think it's gonna always be like that. So you may spend it and get it back, like I did on one video, or you may you might try to just help everybody, help the world, or you may just try to, whatever. You're not knowing you have to budget as if bad times is coming, because they are coming. Every time you have now I know this may seem common sense to some people, but common sense ain't so common in some cases, you know what I'm saying? Some people just don't get it. Anyway, so it teaches you how to budget and plan. So now you got to plan for when the times is good, store up. When the times is bad, coast along till the good times come back up again, store up. If you don't do that, it will cost you so much and you will learn the hard way. I didn't only learn from my own mistakes, but I learned from other people's mistakes too. That if you don't budget and plan as an owner operator, you ain't learning from your crowd, because it will teach you that indirectly. Because it'll teach you in 2 ways. One way is when the hard times come, because they will come. When the breakdowns come, because they will come. You ain't got no money to pay. You'll understand, okay, well, I gotta do something different. Or you realize, hey, I should be running these loads for cheap, because when the breakdowns come, cost me more than a load. Here's an example. If you go out there and you run your load for 1 day, right? Let's say that load paid $500. I'm gonna say, just for example. And you get out there, you have a breakdown. Your breakdown plus the toll and fees, it may cost you $1,500. The load actually paid pretty good, $500, depending on what you have to do for it, how far you have to go, how much fuel you have to burn with the tolls, you know, et cetera, right? But if that breakdown costs you $1,500 for that day, you're in a negative $1,000 for that day. So you gotta plan for days like that. So you gotta plan in case them days show up. You got money looking down the road to pay attention to make sure that in case this happens, I won't be in despair. You know what I'm saying? I have something going on. Last point, guys, I'm gonna say on this video is teach you about profit and losses. So like, you can think you're winning all year long. In fact, you can think you're winning 6 months at a time, and you can realize you're losing more than you're making. And you don't realize it. And I used to always wonder how did that happen? How you don't know you're losing until you in a situation and you realize, oh, that's how you can see you're losing. You can see you're losing by, you may have savings saved up, you may have credit cards, you put stuff, especially if your finances all over the place, you put stuff on credit card, I'll pay it back, I got 30, 28 days to pay that back before that start carrying interest. So you get a couple credit cards, you start putting stuff on there, you got some savings over here, you put stuff over there. So your main account ain't really going down. So you're like, okay, I'm still good. My main account is good. The reserves went down a little bit. Credit cards, hey, I get to them when I get to them. But then you realize that, like, when you do all your your budget and planning, you realize, man, I am operating in red. Only reason I'm not feeling it as much is because I got reserves. So whatever my settlements ain't covering, or whatever these loans ain't covering, or whatever, how much less I work, it don't matter. I got my bills covered because I got reserves, I got credit cards, I got etc. So a lot of times you don't realize you're losing because you're not turning a profit because you're not really feeling the hit. It's only until, like, when you actually look at it on paper, or you're looking at an Excel sheet and looking at all your expenses, and you look at all your pay, your quote unquote profit, the stuff you're supposed to be in a positive in, and it looks pretty negative. Then you're like, okay, I'm taking the L. And if I keep going this route, in such or such time, I'm gonna be out of business. That's the more professional way of looking at it. But the more bootleg way of looking at it is, I look at my bank account, oh man, I got problems. That's how a lot of us find out profit and loss. Something look wrong. What is going on? Now you start looking, hey, what happened? And you start looking at your transactions, start looking at different things. It teaches you that indirectly. A lot of stuff, owner-operated thing, a lot of stuff owner-operated business will teach you. It's like, it's intangible stuff, like stuff you gotta learn just from being in the grit. Like, I gotta say something in a video, but sometimes people may not even get it until you actually in that position. You're like, oh wow, this is what they talking about. Like, one last point I'm gonna say on this video, guys. Owner-operated business teach you how to take some risks in a way that is really not. You would not even think about doing some of the stuff you would do if you had not been in that situation. I'm trying to say it politically correct on here, which I'm doing a horrible job at it, but I'm gonna keep riding. Being on operator, you gonna have some times where you gonna do things that you want. I call it the unthinkable. You really don't want to do that stuff. You really don't want to take that chance, like I did earlier point in this video, take that risk. But when you in a jam and your back is against the wall, you will do the unthinkable. As I tell you, the owner-operator business will bring out a side of you that you didn't know you had. I knew I could get down on a lot of things, guys, but I'm telling you, it ain't until you put it to the fire where you realize, hey, when you sit on the side of a road in negative 20 degrees, and your truck is somewhat running, but it's creeping, you get real creative. I just say that. You start thinking about things you wouldn't have possibly thought about because you was in that situation. So it brings out a side of you that you didn't know you had. You had. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm in the video, guys. A lot of these skills you learning from being an owner-operator too, they transferable. So you could take these same skills indirectly and apply it to any point of your life. So, like, I'm gonna say this one last thing, touching on this, and I'm gonna end this, guys. You could come from an owner-operator business, right? Where the overhead could be super high. You could know that your fuel bill could be 50. Your fuel bill a year could be somebody's salary. You have fuel bills of $80,000 a year, fuel bills. You come from that, you go to a business where you have like overhead of $2,000 a year, but you're able to make $250,000 plus. And then you go in that field, you talk to people in that field, and they like, man, we gotta pay $2,000 a year. I don't want to do that, man. We gotta pay $2,000 for this. And yo, man, you thinking like, man, I pay $2,000 any day a year to make $250,000 a year. Versus me paying $80,000 a year in fuel alone, let alone taxes, IFTA, plates, permits. So your mindset is, okay, when I get over here, I'm finna kill it. All I gotta do is learn this, pay $2,000, and I can make $250,000. I'm gone. Well, the people that's over there, they don't know what you've been through. They don't know about the owner-operator when you break down, that shop call you with $15,000 bill, and you're like, man, I already got that, it's over. And then if you do have it, you want to pay it, but you're like, man, I don't know if I'll be able to make this back. How long will it take me to recoup my loss? And I got to pay $2,000 a year to make $250,000 in this career? You got an advantage. It's an unfair advantage, I say that.